porridge that stays in the bowl. Now when everyone has porridge, it's about speed. Whoever finishes up first,
gets more.
Bro, it's like we had fridges in the mouth.
You're in the military set.
Hot porridge, but the way you would consume it.
I've received my message of the
They also
census.
used to call it suicide.
What was suicide again?
Boiling a cup of premixed bush in a drum of hot water, hoping that the water would boil and it cooks your bush. But sometimes you'd get impatient. And you just bang it and you take it the way it is. Then you just find a guy like at midnight on the walls of the latrine.
Those are what they call high school chronicles.
And those are the guys who are going to be counted tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are the guys who are making calls. Come and they count you from my place.
Come and they count you from my place. Do you know how many calls are being made like around this time? Tomorrow.
Guys are just too strategic.
Even young lawyers are making those calls.
With what Wi-Fi?
But you know what's funny
The
enough?
message may reach tomorrow.
What's funny enough? There are some chicks who are going to buy that message. Like you come and they count you.
Crazy.
Anyway, on the eve of census, where we get to be counted, they are going to ask people how many children you have. I don't know what Edwin is going to say. How many wives you have? I don't know what our guest is going to say. Of course, me, I'm innocent, so those things don't affect me so much. But
you have a glass, he has a glass, I don't have a glass. This is a sign I'm not married, so moving on from there.
Ruben is married.
Podcast. Married to who?
He's going to say rugby.
To Nailo.
The breakdown.
Yeah.
We are here. Disregard all the conversations that are happening. We're here to look at a couple of things that have been happening in the rugby in the country. Of course, with Edwin back from wherever he has been hiding. You've been MIA from podcasts.
Young lawyer problems.
But there has been a bit of discussion. Some people are doubting the fact that you're a young lawyer. There was a submission that said that you were at Namilyango when Namambe wasn't even an industrial park. And how dare you call yourself a young lawyer?
Kapata Walukuba is one style that jazz. So as a result, I am going to drop the artwork. I had kept of Walukuba where they were eliminated, and they are not going to like it because I have been provoked. And
but are you a young lawyer?
Yeah, I qualify.
What is young?
I'm below 35.
I think we have a different definition of young.
Ruben, you know, if you want to make it in Kampala, you have to be shameless.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, of course, rugby is very interesting that there are so many things that go on, but even just Uganda in general, there's always something going on. I strongly believe it is scripted, but who am I to say? But on a weekend when a couple of teams were eliminated from the quarterfinals of the championship playoffs, we did put out a couple of posters. Many people were like, how can you be that harsh? But facts are facts. Today I want us to just break down a couple of things. But before we even get into the review of what happened in the quarterfinals and what is going to be happening in the semi-finals, let's just look at, of course, what Uganda Sevens coach Tolbert Onyango released today. The squad that is going to be representing in Munich, the last circuit before the playoffs. Of course, mathematically and realistically, it wasn't possible for Uganda to make it all through. But I'm happy with the team that he put out, of course. If I'm just to quickly go through it, Alex Aturinda, Timothy Mugisha, Shimwa Davis, Tukei Aaron, Corey William, Norbert Okenyi Sexton, Etwao Dennis, Marco Suna, Karima Renaitwe, Olango Alan, Roy Chizito, and Mubarak Wandera. Many of the guys that are normally on the sidelines or on the fringes, I should say, this time getting their call. For those that are wondering who is in the middle of myself and Edwin, it is Brian Muhumuza from the Ug Rugby Fanzone. Welcome to the podcast.
The OGs of Ugandan rugby.
The OGs.
Thank you so much, Ruben. What a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Before we even jump into all this cover, how has the season been for you from a UG Rugby Fanzone point of view?
Exciting, very exciting. I think the championship format, which at the start of the season caused so many feathers to be rattled. I mean, people are complaining. Games are few now. The teams wouldn't have enough match the revenue, that kind of thing. To be a champion, you have to do more because previously in the league you have just beat your rivals and then make sure you don't lose, and then you're champion at the end of the season. But very exciting. A couple of upsets. Mongas beating Pirates, Buffalo's beating Pirates, Heathen surviving in Ginger with the draw, and then against Walukova with the last play try to win. Cobb starting the season with some unsteady form. So the season has been very exciting, but I must say the new championship has provided what you would ideally call the lesser teams with a chance, to make big things in the playoffs. We saw how Rhinos almost upset the Pirates to make the semi-finals, and now previously the Hippos, who wouldn't have a chance, to win the league, have a chance. All they have to do is make sure they beat the Pirates home and away, and then they have a shot at winning the league. So a very exciting season. Teams have improved. The gap between what you would call the top teams and the lesser teams has narrowed down. The level of rugby is definitely better than last season. So yes, it has been a very good season from our perspective.
Okay, Edwin, from your perspective, what have you seen that has caught your attention or your eye from the championship this season?
I think the level of competition has stepped up a notch. Not to say the other editions of the competitions were not as competitive, but I think the competition has been a notch higher, and seeing the impact of home games for particular teams, Mongas, how they managed to sail through, disturbing a few teams, disturbing Rhinos, disturbing Pirates as well, goes to show that it has, in one way or the other, put the teams on championship mode, focus on one game at a time, and at the same time mindful that whatever your fixture, you maximize your fixture list. So if you Rhinos and you start with the lower tier sides, finish them off, and then use that experience to build up on the so-called top four sides. So I think it has raised the competition, and I'm very much interested to see how that plugs into the 15th team.
Okay. Of course, we are here at the Gardens, Nigeria, a beautiful space where we normally shoot our podcasts, our conversations, and we normally afterwards have an experience. Normally there's, of course, the Tuesday quiz. Today we are particularly having the Thursday, where there's going to be rock night, a whole experience of rock music, but there's a lot that you can do with the Gardens, Nigeria, of course, from the spaces that you can hire for your private party to just having a good time with friends and family. Make sure that you make it a point to make your way to Nigeria, just next to the BuildNet apartments, and come to the Gardens, Nigeria.
It's also slightly older women Thursday.
Yes, the slightly older women Thursday for those that are interested in that particular set. Please endeavor. Of course, also our partner Now Special. We shout out to them for the beverages and the support that they constantly give us. We always try to hydrate as we have these conversations, and we do appreciate. So we have talked about all that, and one thing that came up in the playoffs, in the second leg especially, is the twist that some Sevens players were given the green light to feature for their teams. I might not remember all of them offered, but I know Aaron Ofoiroth for Heathens. I know Ian Munyani and Adrian Casito for Cobbs. I know that Desire Yera and Timothy Kisiga were given the green light for Pirates, among others, which led to a slightly inexperienced team that is being sent to Munich. From your perception, what do you think Tolbert Onyango is trying to go with? That kind of team that doesn't have the likes of Philip Okorash, doesn't have the likes of Isaac Massa, doesn't have the likes of Aaron Ofoiroth. What is your take? I'll start with you, Brian.
Thank you, Ruben. For a long time, what was a worry in Uganda rugby circles was for a long time we put out a certain core of players to whatever sevens trip we had, be it Safari Sevens, be it Africa Sevens, be it all those invitational circuits we had, maybe Dubai, Cape Town. So I had a couple of core players, 5 or 6 players who would make every trip, year in, year out. But what changed this year is, unfortunately, after the events of Dubai and Montevideo, what happens is mathematically we're out. We will not be able to participate in that playoff to attain core status in Madrid. So I think what's at the back of Tolbert's mind is building for the future.
Yeah.
We've had a large sevens training group, but every time we'd have a particular group of players who wouldn't, make whatever trip it is. So yes, I think it's a very good thing. I mean, give these players, so many of them who are very young, give these players that exposure, that experience of going to a circuit, playing against these top teams, and in a year or two, they'll be ready to be either in our core team or backup. So I think it's a very, very good thing.
Alan Olango is back in the team.
Yeah.
Roy Kizito getting another outing. We're seeing Timothy Mugisha. And Nkore looking like he's one of the senior players in that particular team. And also, yes, Mubarak Wandera. Your thoughts on what you think Coach Tolbert is trying to go for?
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity to show our depth. I think when we've had many tournaments over time, and one of the questions that comes up is, suppose this one gets injured or can't travel, how deep are we as a country to do that? So to see a team travel without the, should I say, core 7 or core 8, and be able to, not to preempt what they're going to do, but to see them come out and look strong on paper is something very impressive. And what will happen on pitch, me personally, I will not really judge them because they are playing in their circumstances. We're not going to qualify. We don't have an opportunity to qualify. But what that puts them in their minds particularly is to ensure that they have the opportunity to show what they can do and see what would be very important for them to show in Munich. I think one of the things that personally I thought would send maybe a rookie side with some seniors for the Ghana African Games, but I was told there was some catching involved.
Serious business.
So it was business as usual. So that was understandable. But to see our boys go, first experience, I think in Munich, Alan Olango, we last saw him, I think, in South Africa last year. So to see him back, see Roy Kizito back again from Dubai. I mean, those players going through those paces and being able to return to the team. Okay, I think we last saw him in South Africa last year as well. So to see them back is going to be something very impressive. I'll very much be on my Rugby Pass app watching those games eagerly.
But I think the most exciting thing for me is seeing a team that doesn't have Adrian Casito and Aaron Ofoirath. I mean, for the longest time, those have been the most consistent performers on our team, and they hardly get injured and they hardly get changed. Because, I mean, let's face it, also, they've put the bar so high in terms of performance. So now, I'm waiting to see who's going to be our scrum half, who's going to be our fly half in the 7. So that's very key for us, because we know no matter how very good Adrian and Aaron are, at a certain point in time we shall need their replacements.
Yes.
So I am waiting to see whoever plays those numbers this time.
So as we drift away from this particular tournament, I want to ask one last thing. What would you be satisfied with from this particular group in Munich? What kind of result or what kind of showing? Is it leaving the group? Is it getting one win from the group? What would make you guys happy?
Well, sport is very easy in terms of fans are able to see where there's effort, and I can speak broadly for myself, and I think other like-minded fans that fans don't like losing as long as they see a team put out effort. As long as players go on pitch, they go into tackles, they defend in the line, and they try to go for a win. fans don't mind seeing teams lose in those manners. And most times fans take offense in a team not showing up. You know, there are teams with potential, but probably when they go on the pitch, they freeze and that kind of stuff. So I just want to see players go onto the pitch with no pressure and express themselves. That team has very great potential. Aaron 2K, we know what he has been able to do on the local circuit, so we can't wait to see him. We know he has potential. So we'd like 2K to go on that pitch and, you know, take on defenders, hit the gain line, break a tackle or two, that kind of thing. So we just, personally, I just want to see a team which will express itself, go on the pitch, play, leave it all out there, no matter the result.
Okay, Edwin.
Man, don't lose, man.
Don't lose.
me,
Don't lose. It's like
don't
you're telling
lose.
him to win
I
the
don't
whole
want-
circuit.
Yes, if that's what it takes. Give Tolly reason to say that, hey, have I been using the wrong guys? Yeah, so don't lose. For me, that's the first thing. But in addition to that, I want to associate myself and say I'm also a like-minded fan. As Brian was saying, I would very much be interested in seeing the structure. Playmaking is very important. I think our sevens team has very many playmakers, so that's something I'm very much interested in seeing where we are from the playmaking perspective. The strength part as well. Shimwa is going to be very instrumental here in the strength part. I want to see how they can manage to carry themselves against tough opponents. I think we have Hong Kong, China in our group or something like that. I'd very much want to see what they would do, and also I would want to see their position when we are defending a lead and it's tight. Like you saw the group games we had in Uruguay, where we had to come that extra time game against Uruguay hosts. I want to see our team put in a position like that and see how they dig deep into it. Not that the fact that there is no pressure or whatever, but I want to see how mentally strong they are.
Or like the
to be able-
Commonwealth game
exactly.
against
Yes,
Australia.
Australia. Yes, I want to see how strong they are, how they make their decisions. In addition to winning first, then the other things, or the other way around, whatever you want to say.
Fair enough. Of
Yeah.
course, we get to see these boys go and get their chance, and perhaps maybe we are seeing a start of a different cycle of development when it comes to Uganda Sevens. So anyway, let's jump into last weekend. The beauty of the championship was the fact that from an assortment of 11 weeks of regular season action, so much happening, so many upsets, so many interesting results. There were 8 chosen. Those 8 would go on to play in the playoff quarterfinals, first leg and second leg. And as of the second leg, of course, the scores which led the teams to ascend, the teams that won to ascend to the semi-finals were as follows, of course. Pirates on the day winning 30-27 against Rhinos in a game which was 21-0 at halftime to Rhinos.
Yeah.
Rhinos who were trailing in the first leg at 10-7. Coming into the second leg, winning the halftime, I should say, 21-0. But the game is never over at halftime. Second half, experience brought on by the Pirates, they score 30 points. Rhinos only able to add 6 points. Final score in that one was 30-27. Aggregate score from the 2 legs was 40-34. Buffalo's Hippos in another tight encounter in the second leg. First leg was a little bit of a blowout.
Yeah.
Hippos making sure that home advantage counts, 40-19. And the second leg being 12-5, Buffalo's winning that one. But unfortunately, aggregate score was 45-33 in favor of the Hippos. Walukuba and Heathens. You could say Walukuba has really punched above their weight, but Heathens showing why they are the supreme club in the country. First leg was a 25-0 victory. Second leg was 28-16 in favor of the Heathens still, in a game that they won 53-16 on aggregate. And Cobs taking on Mongers. If I'm not mistaken, I think the first leg was 2016, and the second leg...
The first leg was 17-13.
17-13. I'm thinking about the regular season. 17-13, and Cobs in the second leg with a whooping 51-16.
Yeah.
With an aggregate score of 68-29. How does that make the semi-finals that we're going to talk about a little bit later because we got to understand that it is dependent on your scores who's going to be having the first leg semi-final. So Cobs had a better aggregate score than Heathens, so the first leg semi-final is going to be at Legends, where Cobs is going to take on Heathens, and then Pirates will be traveling to Dam Waters in Ginger to take on Hippos at a ground that has been a very big headache to so many clubs. But let's first talk about last weekend. From what you saw, your standouts in that particular weekend.
Last weekend, from the first legs, of course, to be honest, I didn't think Walukwa would be able to turn around their deficit in the first leg against Heathens. I thought, yes, there was a chance of Walukwa beating the Heathens, but I think that lead was too big for them, and it turned out like that. Heathens getting the double, home and away win. The game I thought that would be a little bit closer was Cobs Mongers. Because even judging from the scores that Mongers have had in the regular season against the top teams, they beat Pirates, lost to Heathens by a few points, and then also lost to the Cobs by a few points. Then again in the playoffs. What surprised me was Rhinos Pirates, both in the first leg. But honestly speaking, I didn't think Pirates. I didn't think Rhinos would have a chance going to KPA. I think Pirates would hold out the victory, but my oh my, it was as hard as it can ever be. And I must say this, I saw on social media throughout the week after that victory for the Pirates, so many people giving stick to Rhinos, or they blew this, or they fumbled, but I just want to say, let's be honest, Rhinos have never been in such a position, because we haven't had this format where, we have playoffs. We haven't had playoff rugby in a long time. And the fact is, only Hippos, Pirates, Heathens, and Cobs have that mental strength to be in that position, because they have been in league battles over and over again. Rhinos hasn't been in such a position to test their mental strength. So even when they were leading 21 points to 0, some of yours felt that, Pirates would come in the second half and throw each and everything, especially with the bench they had with the sevens guys returning. So, yes, people would feel the Rhinos threw this away, but again, let's remember, they haven't had mental capital to be in certain situations like this, so that, they get to this position and they say, we've been here before, we can hold our own, we know what to do, you do this, slow down the ball, play away from our half, let's kick out, the risky rugby, and then, we win. So yes, it's a pity, because sport is sport. They gave people so much hope. I remember I was at Legends, and so many people were glued on Kawo, and they were, they're watching that game. But let's be honest and say, they put their hand up. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the win, but they'll definitely live to fight another day. And yes, that was it. Of course, once again, I thought Mongers Cobs would be very close, but again, the win against Mongers away in Entebbe, Cobs didn't play fancy stuff. They played basic rugby. They played away from their danger areas. They went for points. They battled. They defended for their lives. Because at halftime it was 11-0. But you see Mongers closed that down. But my legends, Cobs were very impressive. Benjamin Mwanguzi, Ian returning in the second half. And, like their hashtag is poetry in motion. That second half, they literally played champagne rugby. Yeah, but all semi-finalists deserve to be where they are.
Okay, Edwin, so I know you watched the Cobs Mongers game.
Yeah.
And in a way, in rugby, we like doing something called cutting word. But it perpetuates the stereotype that Mongers cannot handle wide pitches. A very tight first leg, second leg comes and they are blown out. How did you see that game? What went wrong for the Mongers, and what did Cobs do right?
I think what went wrong for the Mongers was the kicks were missed. I think that was a big deal breaker for them, because at a point in that game it was 7-6, and you could clearly see that Mongas had come to play. And even from the way the kicks were being missed, you could just see a little bit of, he missed like 2 directs, like you will see the wheel went out, but most of them were just short. So that plays into the stereotype that on a wider pitch where it's a little bit longer to kick may be a very big issue. But maybe in the revamped championship next season, they should have more away games. Maybe that could help. Yeah, but I could see the Mongas were a little bit dejected. They knew they had it, and on any good day, any bad day, you can miss a kick or two. So I think they have learned a lot from this experience of the season, and what I think it has taught the Mongas is that they can utilize their home advantage very well where it suits them. I watched that game against Rhinos where they won. I think it was on Kawoa as well, where they won, and you could see that they even that game against Walukuba that Walukuba snatched at the last minute. You could clearly see that Mongas have understood what it means to play at home and how they can impact themselves. Going into the second leg, they came in hard and they pushed hard. The weather was kind of favoring a forwards game, and Cobs also kind of let them into the game. They gave away a lot of penalties, and I think, Brian, remember, I think there were nearly 4 or 5 kicks attempted, and he only scored 2. Yeah, only scored 2. So you could see that was if those kicks went in, like we were on a hate watch, Pirates, we were on a hate watch. Well, it was a hate watch at Legends, and you could clearly see that if you were on any other ground and you saw a scoreline of maybe 15-17 at halftime in favor of Cobs, guys would be like, okay, this is a game. So I think that's where I think they lost that game. If for the teams that are not top 4, the only way they put pressure on the other teams is through the scoreboard. That's the only way they can manage that competition. I was talking to a Cobs fan and I told them that, look, you guys won, you are saying Rhinos choked. But in essence, if Cobs was also 21-0 down, you would expect the same show to come back in the second half and win the game. It's just the standards of those teams. So even these teams, as they get used to this setting and whatever, with time they will understand also how to play. Rhinos, that knock on at the last minute was painful. You could notice that all they needed to do was just really just slow it down. They did a good job slow it down, but you could see if they were a patient, maybe a third 2 minutes patient, they would have scored, because even the knock-on was so bad, the ball even went to Nathan's side and then he picked it up and kicked it out. So
it's tight when a hooker picks up the ball and kicks it out.
Yeah, so Pirates was on pressure. Cobs at one point were on pressure. Even Heathens, I think, in Walukuba at one point were in pressure. Not that on the scoreboard of the day, not an aggregate score, but you could clearly see that the teams that you'd call the midfield of the championship, they are starting to pick up. They are just maybe a player or 2 away from destabilizing maybe what you'd call the number 3 and 4 in the top 4 of Ugandan rugby.
It's like Edwin was reading my mentor script, but now let me just jump to you as we move away from the preview of the quarterfinals, the review rather of the quarterfinals. The fact that except from that second leg game between Cobs and Mongas, that was a big score. Walukuba was relatively close. Rhinos was close in both legs.
Yep.
And we are seeing these other teams, Buffaloes as well with Hippos, close game. What does that communicate to you as someone that has watched rugby for some time? Of course, not forgetting that even in the regular season, we rarely had those things that we used to have in the past of so many 60, 70. There were a few, but there were not as many as previously had.
Well, for starters, it proves that the game has grown countrywide.
Yeah.
And growth has gone on from these traditionally bigger sides to other teams. Yes, you mentioned how the scores are very close, and what that translates to me is if we do keep the same structure for the league next season, it will definitely even be closer. You know, so yes, it just shows that, you know, rugby has grown, and the growth is not just in the big teams, and now we are seeing the so-called lesser teams now, Buffaloes, Rhinos, Mongas. They have structures, they have better players. You look at that Rhinos team, very young. We look at that Hippos team. Hippos is very good now, very much on, you know, the top table of Ugandan rugby. So yes, it shows that rugby has grown. It shows that going forward, the league isn't, you know, going to be between 2 or 3 teams. I remember Pirates took quite a while to, you know, get into the thick of things between Heathens and Cobs, because for a long time it was Heathens and Cobs, and then Pirates comes, and now it's a big 3, and now Hippos is there, it's a big 4. So who knows, maybe in the next 2 years it will be a big 6.
Okay. All right. So of course that was it from the review of the quarterfinals. Now we move on to the semi-finals. But before we go into the semi-finals, let's touch a little bit onto the Women's Rugby Premiership that has 1 game week to go. Of course, just looking at something interesting, the Black Pearls are unbeaten in 11 games with 1 game to go, with 54 points. Thunderbirds with 45 in second. And then if we were to quickly drift up to the bottom, Panthers have 3 points, and She-Wolves in 6th have 12. 58-11 was the score at Kings Park Arena as the Black Pearl silenced the Nile Rapids in a repeat of what was the Uganda Cup semi-final. However, the score back then in the Uganda Cup semi-final was the Nile Rapids got the win that pushed them and gave them the momentum to win the Uganda Cup, the Ladies Uganda Cup. However, also important to note is that Emily Lekuru is at 64 tries, not points, tries. And when it comes to points, she is 300 plus. If I'm to be particular, she has 320 points. And the person following her has 111 points, which is also a Black Pearl, Charlotte Mudola. I want to talk about the state of the league in women's rugby. And what do you think about Black Pearls, Thunderbirds as the team that's trying to follow up, and also the bottom 2?
I think when it comes to the women, I think it's very important now to see how the growth this season translates into 15s rugby.
Okay.
Because from the looks of things, it appears that sevens is more done and dusted and settled. They have their core team. I'm even told they're on contract, so it's more of like a settled group as well. So now this would actually be the year of interest for those who follow a lot of women's rugby to take note of, particularly in the respect to 15s. How the coaches can build a squad from all those ladies sides and have them in the league, performing also at the level in national team. Black Pearls doing all that, even amidst challenges that have been highlighted before, is quite commendable. Managing to score all those points and have total domination of the league. I think not losing a game in like 3 years is something that should not go unnoticed. But I think majorly for me, I would focus on the teams that have come through. The Panthers playing their first 15 season. The She-Wolves also coming in from Bale, coming in to participate. I think it's very important to watch out for that key fixture involving them and Nile Rapids over the weekend and seeing if they can add on to their tally. I think you said they have 12 points. Yeah, so seeing how they can do that. And then also seeing the U's also become a team of substance. Not that they weren't before, but at least now they can also go in particular games. And as when we had our fans chat, Immaculate said that they felt it, the Thunderbirds felt it. If the women can do that as well, I think the bigger growth here is for the 15s team with their later tests coming up.
Your thoughts on the women's league?
First and foremost, I'm happy because our women's team, our women's rugby is growing. Shout outs, of course, to the Rapids and the Panthers, relatively new sides, getting into spaces they haven't been before. Panthers really competed very well. Rapids as well, of course, we knew them from their debut season in the sevens, being a core team. But Another thing we noticed is the Avengers struggling a bit because they have a couple of players they lost to the Sevens training group. Their captain Faith Namuga being away injured, she just got operated on. Thunderbirds going through a rebuilding phase, bringing a couple of youngsters. So it's not surprising that the Black Pearls have had what you would call an easy ride. But yes, I'm excited because all this means that next season is going to be better. Of course, if the youngsters from Thunderbirds mature, that means they'll have experience of quite a big season into next season. The Avengers as well. The Panthers, of course, they will definitely learn from this. The Nile Rapids now very much, into the thick of things. So yes, excited for women's rugby, and I know it's going to, greater heights next season.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've had in a particular set of conversations is that many of these girls that are in the women's league are young, and it's only the biggest challenge is how can we keep these girls active in the game. Because if you keep some of these teams, take for instance the U's, and give them about 3 years or so, that's going to be a team that's going to be contending for the title. So of course it's going to be very important for these teams and the management to be able to consolidate and keep these girls active and relevant in rugby in Uganda. And of course this season not being a season of relegation, and there are of course rumors or communications that next season they might add some more teams into the women's league. That's something that we need to consider. But however, it has been a good season. Congratulations, of course, to the Black Pearls, whose lead cannot be
insurmountable.
Yes, that word. For those that have studied enough English. Black Pearls winning yet again, continuing their dominance in the 15th league. And but let's jump into the semis. And then there were 4. Cobs, Heathens, Hippos, Pirates. First leg this weekend, all games on Saturday. Pirates traveling to Dam Waters to play Hippos. Heathens will be walking, literally. Crossing from Chadondo, going through Forest Mall, and it's no longer ShopRite, I don't know.
Near Nonivi.
I don't know if they will pass by Nonivi, but they have to make their way to Legends. It's about a 10-minute walk, and I like the way that the Chadondo camp does it. It's a whole big collection of people.
Those days it used to be with a band.
Michael Korash did tell us that they used to walk with the band playing, but this time no band. They will just be the family of Chadondo walking all through Forest Mall up to Legends, where they will be playing their first leg semi-final against eternal rivals, Cobs. Cobs have lost a lot to Heathens in the last few meetings, and I'm sure it is something that does not sit right with them. But to stimulate this conversation, of course, one of the things that I want to put out of the 6 top point scorers in the championship this year, Malcolm Okello of Heathens, who has 98 points, and Josiah Sepeke of Cobs, that has 73 points, are the only 2 players remaining actively in the championship semi-finals. The others have been eliminated. Of course, top still remaining Robin Ojua with 151, but not in contention anymore. So these 2 youngsters will be meeting in the semi-final. But your view of the semi-finals first leg, what do you guys think? Of course, considering home ground, history, form, and all other things put into consideration.
It's mouth-watering. It's the thrill of this playoff rugby, pitting these rivals against each other is just great. Eternal Rivals, you talked about Cobs Heathens. It's probably the biggest fixture in Ugandan rugby. And now that more is at stake, adding the thought of Cobs not beating Heathens in a long time, and adding the thought that there's more at stake, that if you beat whoever rival it is, you go to the finals. I'm so excited. I must say, of course, I'm a Heathens fan. I hope we win. And judging from the form and the recent form, of course, the only blemish on the Heathens record this championship being a draw against Hippos away, all the others being wins. And the fact that we've beaten Cobs quite for a long time in 15s, I think, my prediction is I think we're going to win, but it's going to be very close. One, because the Cobs have improved from their early season starter going into the mid of the championship, end of the championship, into the playoffs, and now throw in the spanner of works that Coach Tolbert released, the Sevens players, Adrian Casito, Ian Munyani.
Have they been given the green light to play this weekend as well?
Yes, I
They
think they were
played
released.
last weekend.
I'm saying this one. Are they
Yeah.
are they
It's
given
until
the green
1st
light
June.
to play?
I mean, they are not in the team to Munich, so we
It's until
imagine.
1st June, I'm told.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, I think we all know what Aaron Ofoiroth brings to the Heathens. I mean, his ability to, when he was coming into the league, he was out and out scrum half.
Yeah.
And then the Sevens, when he got into the setup, allowed him to also transform into a fly half. I think he brings a lot. We all know what he brings. But I think the biggest beneficiaries from this is going to be Cobs. Having Ian back, for me, is a game changer. The organization he brings to that Cobs backline, the defense, the options he gives them, I think is going to be, though I think Heathens is going to win, I think it's going to be very, very close. I still think it can go either way, but I think Heathens will win. But it's going to be very, very close. And then we go to Hippos Pirates. Hippos very much at the table of Ugandan rugby now. They beat Cobs in the championship. They drew with Heathens, and then almost beat the Pirates at Kings Park. So yes, they are in the thick of things. I think Hippos will win a game, but I think the Pirates will go through. One, because I think. Also, again, the returning stars, Massa was on the coaching, was filling up on the coaching.
He's injured. I don't even think he's ready for this weekend.
Okay, but still having Desire and Timothy Kisiga is very good. I remember talking to Sydney Gongodio and Nathan Bwambale on the game that they hosted, the Hippos at Kings Park, and they hadn't had a battle that big in quite a while. They were out of breath, and they were saying, they had to really dig deep. But I think Pirates have the mental strength and the players to execute over both legs. So I think my pick for the finals is Pirates Heathens.
Okay. As I come to Edwin, of course, in sport there is something called head-to-head. Hippos in the championship has beaten Cobs at Dam Waters, and they have drawn with Heathens at Dam Waters. Dam Waters seems like it is a fortress now. Your thoughts on that particular semi-final, and then we can transition into Cobs Heathens.
Yeah, when we went to Ginger, it was game week 6 or 7, when we watched Hippos versus Buffaloes, Robert Seguya Cup. One of their fans, the Stain, said that this is a fortress. You can't beat us from here. And I'm very much interested in seeing what will transpire in Ginger following that statement. For all that they have done, the Ginger Hippos, they have managed to maintain home turf very well. They have protected it, killing 2 key opponents in their charge for the championship. But also one thing you should note is that Hippos, in one way or the other, are kind of fumbling things. They lost to Buffaloes in a game that they should have won, despite the conditions. I think they rested a few players as well. They had the luxury to do so following the first leg. But then also, they lost to Mongas in the last game of the championship before the playoffs. So, Isometrics will show LWL, you get, in their build-up to this particular game. But I don't think as Hippos they would be very frightened or scared by the challenge that this game brings to them, considering what many would argue is that they lost because of poor decision making at KPA, something like that, that even saw the coach and maybe a player go back and forth at it. So the argument on their end is that it was just poor decision making that made them lose that game. So Hippos scorecard against the top three, if I'm to argue it that way, if they are to be the out of that equation, they could come out confidently and say this has been a good season. They have managed to draw with Heathens, beat Cobs, and slightly lose to Pirates. So that's something that they can easily take home and say, okay, that's a good thing. Let's work on it. And there is no other better opportunity than to do it at home in front of their fans. How they structure it is that I would think they will need to go guns blazing. Pirates, for all that they have done this season, the losses they have suffered, they have also managed to learn from them. They have learned that it's important to utilize the bench, to spread out the players and the like in respect to aspects of gameplay, attack and defense. So that mental strength to go ahead and score all those points, 30 points in the second half against
they didn't have a choice.
They didn't have a choice and they showed it. So that's going to be very critical. Pirates, how they will manage their bench again, whether to go for an early surge or a late one, is something for the coach to decide. But I don't think if they're going to go late, it will work for them in their favor. I think Hippos have shown even against Buffaloes that they could defend when it was really, really tight on their end. So I would expect a very good running game in Ginger. I very much hope we can have footage of that as well and see how that goes, particularly for build-up of the second leg that will now be in Kampala. Boyogere. Then for the Cobs game, Heathens have been on a roll. I think if Cobs wants to win that game, they need to go and watch the Hippos game in Ginger and look at each and every minute that Heathens went wrong.
So they watch their own games against?
No, I'm going to come and tell you. So for me, I think personally, if I take off the biases aside and whatever, I think if Cobs want to win that game, they need to scrummage very well against Heathens.
But they've been doing that for like 3 years.
I think that has been one of the weak points of Heathens season this time round. Their scrummaging has not been very good. I think if you watch the Buffaloes game, the last game of the season, they were being pushed, and that's not characteristic of Heathens. And I think for Cobs to get that ascendancy to beat Heathens, they need to do that. Now for Heathens to beat Cobs, I think it's the pedigree is already there, so they're well known of doing it. They know how to do it, and also Cobs has that uncertainty when to go for points. Considering now it's a two-leg affair, maybe they will consider it more often than usual, but they need to take the 3 points as soon as possible. Pick a leaf from Smack. Take the 3 points as much as possible, and score when you can. Because if you don't, I think that's going to be Cobs' biggest undoing. Because Heathens always, everyone, even those who are just watching, even neutrals, you can feel it in the air. It's like Usain Bolt is chasing you. When you get the baton before him, he's chasing you. Feel them. You just have a sense that Heathens is going to score. And that's, I think, one of their biggest strong points. So when you get that out of Heathens system and you score the points and make them use the scoreboard to put pressure on them to do what to do. Should we tap and go? Should we do that? That will be a key area. And I think also another area that Cobs has suffered on this season is lineouts. So the lineouts have been a little bit shaky, and Heathens, considering even they have Cyrus Wathum, Abba Champara, who are playing there at hooker, who can adequately throw that ball. So Cobs needs to put pressure on the lineout as well. They need to get their throws right and put pressure on that. And I think one of the things that came out also in the game that was in the Uganda Cup semi-final, as well as the game against Mongas, is Cobs needs to work on their clearance kicks off the ruck and the scrum down. They will very much be punished by Heathens. All you need to do is have Odoch just to run. Give him space to run like from 5 meters behind the ruck to charge down a ball. He might miss 7, but he'll end up getting 1. And it will be that kind of Razzie, Erasmus, Charles, Lynn Colby thing, where he said, the coach told me just keep on, then we got 1. So that's somewhere I think also where Cubs needs to work on the exits. And also, I think the combinations for this game need to be mouth-watering. I think Brian knows we've been having discussions about what will the partnerships be, considering Cubs are getting players back, and how Aaron will slot into Heavens as well and give us the battle we deserve. I think there's that opening fixture where the Adrian Casito try and Uhuru red card happened. That was a very good fixture, so we're hoping for more of that. And quite honestly, if you were to take it from a neutral's point of view, may the best team win.
Yeah, everything of course but the red card is what we expect. So, gentlemen, as we start to close, thoughts on, of course, the bottom side of things. This championship has been very uncompromising. Yeah. And then on the other side, you'll see that there is Eagles taking on Impis, and then you'll see Rams taking on Warriors. Thoughts?
If I'm correct, there are one of games.
2 legs.
No,
Two legs. 2 legs. Kivali ambush.
No ambush.
Warriors, Rams, and then Eagles, Impis. It's hard, but I don't see Impis overcoming Eagles. I think Impis have had too much distraction. For a long time, they didn't have their best players. Amos Asimi, Kennedy Muhumuza, Emmanuel Sendia. I don't remember even seeing Sendia play any game. If he did, probably there are not more than 3. And Pius Mpoza as well. It depends if those ones will play. Definitely, if they play, they will have an effect on the game. But because they have been away from the team for a long time, I think their consistency in Eagles' team playing together will have an edge over that. I think it will be very close. I think both players will be very close. But I think Eagles will survive, and I think Rams will have too much against the Warriors.
Okay, Edwin?
Yeah, maybe Warriors, Rams. I think Warriors need to take note of what transpired on the last day. They had the lead in the first half, and then they lost it. So they have a chance to right the wrongs of seasons past. How they do it is up to them. They need to trust Richard Chinyai very much to score those points as and when they come. Rams, I think that particular win got them off the bottom, and I think Cynthia also came here and said that the tenant is on top of the landlord in addition to paying rent. So that's something very interesting. So I think that battle is going to be very interesting, and I think who wins the collusions very much is going to get a chance to win that one, because collusions lead to rucks lead to penalties, the scrum downs. So the collusion is going to be very, very important, and most of the times those teams tackle missing rate is high. So whoever dominates the collusion is going to have a blast on that day. For Eagles Impis, I think Impis having a new kit is going to give them some sort of energy. Some disruptive marketing from somewhere there, but their new kit is going to give them some new energy. Whether it is energy enough to go and beat Eagles is another thing, because as Brian says, Eagles have been consistent. But also, when you look back in the season and you look at the games that Eagles has played in its same weight class, particularly the game I played against Warriors, they have a tendency to, I wouldn't say undermine, but overlook the simple way of winning. I watched their game against Warriors, and you could clearly see that Eagles were dominating the scrums. They were taking them in open play, but they were just not scoring, and they were not winning the game. When they scored 2 late tries in the game, it was by far too late. Warriors had already taken the lead. Musisi, Gabriel Aredo were having a blast on them. So Eagles, in all that they do consistently and putting up good performances, they also have moments where they lapse a bit. And I think if they really, really want to give Impis an upset, should I say an upset because they are the ones who have been promoted, they really need to go back and look at those games where they played teams in their weight class and focus on that. No playing around. This is a relegation playoff. It may come down to a point, a 2, a kick, or a forward pass. Dexy, what's up?
Well, a lot has been happening, and we are going to be, for the next couple of weeks, having these discussions as we are in what is called the business end of things. Of course, special thanks to partners Ug Rugby Fanzone for being part of this experience. And with the weeks coming, we hope to have more of this. Thank you for being part of this. Of course, that was the breakdown of the review of the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, plus the Women's Rugby Premiership. A lot more to come. Keep it Fat Cats Podcast, and see you guys next week. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.